Let's see, guys, what's going on? Is the audio working? Please, somebody tell me that first and foremost. Happy days. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Divers Ready's first ever live stream, delayed from Friday where we had some technical issues. And I got to be honest with you, I still don't know what those technical issues were. Everything was working before I hit the live button. We went live, no audio. I ended the stream, didn't really change too much or anything at all, in fact. And then all of a sudden we had audio again. So it was just the live streaming gods just went, not today, James. No, you're not having it. Sorry, no. No, it's not going to be a thing. So here's how I thought this would go. We've got a whole bunch of questions that people have already submitted to me, either through the website, through Twitter, #DiversReady, or just through chats and comments on the videos that we've already posted. And I'll be pulling questions out of the chat as well, so keep them coming. This is a family-friendly show. I'm going to do my part by trying not to drop too many curse words. If you could keep it clean and tidy in the chat, that would be appreciated by everyone. Be respectful. This is the scuba diving community, and we all have that shared common love. I'm seeing already a lot of chat going on here, so very happy with that. Hey, Andre. Andre Andrade's online here, one of my students who's been delayed by the coronavirus. Curtis, good to see you, mate. Andy, in from the UK, happy to have you here. Alan, Skip's here, Ali, everyone else. So let's dive in with some questions. First one I got was from Stefan. Stefan said that he won't be able to watch the live feed because he's in New Zealand and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning there. So I don't blame you. Where are my favourite places to dive so far? Where was your favourite place to work? Different question. And have you ever been to New Zealand? If not, are you planning to visit there? Well, I'll start with the last question first. Yes, I have been to New Zealand. It is one of my favourite places on earth. I got to dive the Snares Islands, which are it's a New Zealand national park off the southern tip of the South Island. Just similar to the Galapagos, just a wilderness paradise of marine life, and that was fantastic. Also spent a fair bit of time in Russell up in the Bay Islands. Love New Zealand. My favourite place to dive so far is Truk Lagoon and Palau, just Micronesia in general. The quality of diving there, best wreck diving in the world, best reef diving in the world. And my favourite place to work was actually when I worked on the expedition ship, because we used to get to go to places that nobody else got to dive. We'd go out and dive, virgin reefs out in the South Pacific. That there wasn't a dive centre there. We were pretty much self-contained, and we just drop in and do drift dives, and then we'd be in Antarctica or up in the Arctic and the White Sea. Just fantastic, varied place to work, really. So thank you very much for that, Stefan. Hey, Brad Allen's online from Texas. How you doing, Brad? Chef Warthog, I've seen you in the comments. Thanks for being here, mate. Paul D's here. Dukas, Danka, calling in from Germany. Dankeschön. Brian in from South Africa. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Great to see you guys all here. I'm glad everything's working. Like I said, guys, if you've got any questions for me, throw it up in the comments. Ali Amber's got a comment here. She puts, thinking of moving to Florida, would you rather dive the Atlantic or the Gulf more often? There is very little diving on the Gulf side of Florida. It's incredibly shallow and flat for a long way out. You have to go a long way offshore to get any kind of depth. I mean, even 30, 40 feet is like 2 miles offshore. So definitely the Atlantic and the Keys. I have friends and students who live in Tampa and Naples and so on, and they're looking at moving over to the Atlantic coast for the sake of getting better diving in more regularly. So definitely the Atlantic. The one good thing the Gulf has going for it is the wreck of the Oriskany, which is all the way up north out of Pensacola. Very challenging wreck to dive. It's an aircraft carrier. It's on a slope. I haven't done it yet myself. I've had it planned before and we got blown out that weekend, but absolutely the Atlantic coast there. So definitely that. My buddy Scott's in the house. Hey Scott, how's it going, man? Peter in from the Netherlands. Good to see you. Hey Tom, how you doing, mate? Tom from Pennsylvania. Andre, how you doing? Do you take uni placement? I'm not a university, so probably not. I do have another question from Andre though. I'll bring it up here. He posted this as a comment. Being a newbie and going to be diving cold water in the UK, what are your recommendations for dry suits? Definitely get a dry suit. That's my recommendation for dry suit for diving in the UK. Dry suits break down into two categories. Basically, you're looking at the core materials. They're either going to be a compressed neoprene suit of some kind, or some kind of tri-laminate where they're taking 3 layers and sandwiching them together to provide a waterproof barrier. Um, Advantages and disadvantages of both. The advantages of a tri-laminate suit are if it floods, you end up with a wetsuit, a big baggy wetsuit, but it still has some insulating properties, whereas if a tri-lam suit floods, you're just as cold as the water temperature is. But the advantage of the tri-lam is that you can stage your undersuits. So you could just be in shorts and a t-shirt underneath a tri-lam suit. And for tropical water divers, a lot of people do that here in the winter in South Florida. Or if you're going to dive the Arctic, you can put a big puffy down onesie on underneath a tri-lam suit and sort of, you know, decide how warm that dry suit is going to be for you. So those would be my main considerations. In terms of brands, my dry suit is a crushed neoprene suit because I was doing a lot in the Arctic and stuff. It's a Pinnacle Black Ice, I think the model number is. It's kind of old now. But if I was to buy a suit now, I'd probably go for a tri-lam, probably a DUI or something like that. They make really good suits at a very attractive price point. So there we go. Thank you for the question on that one, Andre. Appreciate it. Dreads in from Trinidad and Tobago. How you doing? Jurgen from Lanzarote. How are you? Thanks for joining us. The Eclectic Engineer is in. Oh, this is the Scuba Dillos Club. Good to see you there. Who else we got? Anyone want to trade their Shearwater Terric for a 36 pack of 2-ply Charmin Ultra Extra? I'd make that deal. That's a good deal. Yeah, happy days. Good for you. All right, what other questions we got here? Mike Park asks, have I ever been out to dive Monterey and Cali? I have. I kind of have a funny story about diving Monterey. I was actually filming a safety video out there for what to do if you fall out of a Zodiac when you're on an expedition ship. We were on our way up to do the Northwest Passage, and I had to film this video where I was like jumping in the water in a bright red immersion suit, splashing around and pretending like I was, you know, out of control. Then I get back in, and then we do some underwater sequences and diving and that kind of stuff. And then, you know, the life jacket would explode, and I'd swim over and climb the ladder and get back into the Zodiac and show the grip and the whole thing. And then the Coast Guard came over and shut us down because there were great whites in the area. So that was the thing that happened. But yes, I do like California, do love cold water diving. Happy days there. My goodness me. Somebody is... Sankit, we got you the first time, buddy. Can you suggest work for rescue divers where I'll get more dives? That is a good question and one that I get asked a lot. Sankit, here's the challenge with that, mate. Rescue diver is not a professional level certification, meaning that if you have a rescue diver cert, you can't get liability insurance. You need to be dive master or above for the multitude of agencies out there. So no, I don't really have an answer for you that. I would suggest if you're looking to go professional, you need to get to the dive master level. I hope that helps you. What else we got? Hyde Park, Great Whites are Urbanus. Hey, Lake Hickory in the house. Shout out. I got to throw that one up there. Everyone, you guys know Brian from Lake Hickory. Can you recommend a good instructor in North Carolina? I certainly can, yeah. His name's Brian Stafford. And, you know, he does a good job. I hope you guys enjoyed our collaboration video back in January. Looking forward to seeing him again very soon. All right. I'm seeing a lot of names that were here on Friday, so I appreciate you guys giving me a second chance. I apologize for anyone's name that I'm about to butcher, like, for example, this guy, the Manatee Paleptico 777, is that correct? Do you think I can use Seawing Nova fins for both scuba diving and free diving? Do you recommend these fins? I don't recommend those fins personally. I did try them out. My wife actually has a pair, and I've used a pair of my buddies. I couldn't get any propulsion out of them at all. That being said, I'm 6'3" and 285 pounds. I'm a big lad. I prefer a stiffer fin because that's going to give me the propulsion for the water. My wife has no problem at all swimming around in them. That being said, I recently bought her a pair of Maras Avanti Quattros, my preferred recreational fin, and since she's had those fins, she hasn't gone back to the Seawing Novas. So that might tell you something, but I definitely wouldn't recommend them for bigger people. In terms of free diving, they're not really a free diving fin. You got to kind of specialize for that. If you really want to take your free diving seriously, I would definitely recommend getting a pair of long free diving fins. So, hope I answered that. Where we go? Another fin question here, Jan Rob, thank you so much. Notice Sylvia Earle wears force fins. Your thoughts on these? My thoughts on these are Sylvia Earle can wear whatever the hell fins she likes. She is an absolute legend, and if she's comfortable diving them, then we should all pay attention, and I am not anywhere near a person who could contradict Sylvia Earle. There you go. Hope that cleared that one up. All right, Matthew Holton's in the house. Hey Matthew, I'm going to pop your question up on the screen. When you worked as a PADI instructor, what was your rating? I'm assuming MSTT or above. Also, what was your favorite course to teach? You assumed correctly, MSTT was the highest I reached. I never went to staff instructor or anything with PADI. My favorite course to teach is probably the rescue diver course, because that is where a diver goes through the biggest sort of leap in knowledge. It's the biggest jump. At open water to advanced, it's not really that big of a leap, and from rescue diver to dive master or dive master to instructor even is not that big of a leap. But the rescue diver course is where, if you're a competent recreational diver, you're completely self-sufficient and you're able to look after your buddy. That's like a good recreational diver. Rescue diver, what you do then is you open up your perspective and get more of a peripheral vision of what's going on with other divers that you might not even be interacting with, but what are the potential problems? If we had an emergency, wherever we are, whether it's freshwater diving, lake, quarry, or out in the ocean, what are the things that could go wrong and how would we deal with them? So it just opens up your vision and it makes you a much more aware diver. So definitely rescue diver is my favorite course to teach. I hope that answers your question, Matthew. Thanks so much for being here. Right, what else have I got here? Alan Jarvis has a question. Is a Sea Life camera a good first camera to start with? Yes, they are. I actually started with the Sea Life camera and I highly recommend it. I think mine was the DC 2000, I want to say. But what they do is they make a nice enclosed package. So there's very few ports and stuff to open. You can adjust them a certain amount with lights and different attachments, but the actual camera is sealed, and they make the camera and the housing, so it's kind of, they work as a system hand in glove, and they have an excellent price point and produce nice images. Obviously they're not going to compete with a DSLR or a modern mirrorless in a big housing, but you ask for entry level and the price point on that, if you just want to go down and take decent photos, then yes, absolutely recommend. And that helps. Lewis is in the house from Cape Town, South Africa. Good to see you, Lewis. Thanks so much. Will is here from Virginia. Hey, Will, how's it going? I've got to make it up to Virginia. I actually found out that you guys have a pasty shop up there, Cornish pasties. I'm like obsessed with the idea of going to Virginia and trying a Cornish pasty in Virginia. So if you know anything about that, please let me know. My buddy Finding Menno is in the house, all the way from Amsterdam. Hey Menno, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. What else have we got on here? Andre's asking when will we get to see our underwater pics. So that's a great question. I don't know, man. When's this all going to be over? When are we going to be able to go diving again? But I think what Andre's referring to is I took some video of Andre underwater as my student. He's currently going through his advanced nitrox deco procedures TDI courses with me until COVID-19 stopped play. I like to take videos of my students. It's kind of controversial because they tell you when you do your instructor course not to have a camera, liability issues, and if anything goes wrong and you've got a camera in your hand, you're straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. And I find that's kind of harsh because I think a camera is an incredibly useful tool for giving a student feedback, because it's hard to know what you look like in the water. So particularly when it comes to buoyancy and trim, just being able to take a couple of quick video clips and then clip the camera off and forget about it, and then use that as a tool for feedback, I think is very valuable. So It depends. What else we got going on here? John Paul, are you available this summer for a sort of new diver cert? A sort of new diver cert or an actual new diver cert? I don't know exactly what you mean by that, John Paul. Perhaps you can clarify in the comments. But I teach everything from open water up to advanced trimix. So whatever course you want to take, I can probably help you out with that. Thank you for your question. Brian Kimmel's got a great question here. Oh, that's not Brian Kimmel. It moved up before I clicked on it. Ralph's favorite spot is Palau. I agree. Brian asked, have you moved over to the raid agency and why? Brian, I have not moved over to the raid agency, and I'll tell you why I haven't. I had to sit down with Paul Toomer, who is the president of Raid, I guess it was 2 years ago now, because it was at the last Tech Dive USA barbecue. And I was sat right next to him, and he gave me the whole spiel on Raid, and he asked me what I did, and I said I run Miami Technical Diving, and he asked me if I was interested in becoming a facility. Now, becoming an instructor and becoming a facility are two completely different things, and I didn't want to become a full-on facility. Right now I'm an independent instructor, and I just have Miami Technical Diving as our brand, and Raid does not support independent instructors, or at least they didn't 2 years ago. I don't know if that's changed in the meantime. Maybe one of you guys can answer that question for me. But I am a big fan of Raid, and I like what they're doing with the industry. I like that they've gone entirely digital for their theory. I like that they make all their instructors teach all skills from open water and above neutrally buoyant. So a lot of their core principles I'm a big fan of. And if they ever do open up to independent instructors, that is definitely something that I would be considering. So great question, Brian. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Martin Culler asks, is our trip to Bonaire still going on? So glad you asked, Martin. Thank you ever so much. It is still going on. Thank you very much. Those are the dates right there. Bonaire 2020, October 17th to the 24th. I think we have 4 spaces left, I want to say. Small group trip, super high-end, unlimited diving, waterfront villa, private coaching session, all-day diving with me. So I'll do 1 day per buddy couple. And we're space limited to a really small group. So it's going to be a very small, intimate trip, and we're very, very much looking forward to it. So yes, Bonaire right now is still going on. It's in October. If this thing isn't over by October, I don't know what we're going to do. So yes, absolutely, Bonaire is still going ahead. Thank you so much. Haha, there we go. Look, the best Cornish pasties in Virginia are actually in my hometown. The Pure Pasty Company. All right. That was the article that I saw, Will. The BBC article was the article I saw, and that was the first time I even knew about that thing. So there we go. What else do we have here? Stephen Wallander, what a timely question. As a tech diver, have you ever been involved in finding lost wrecks or identifying new wrecks? You're going to have to wait for tomorrow's video to find out. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's it. Not going to say anything else. There you go. What else do we have? I think the chat is a little bit delayed because people are going past and I'm not catching up here. Let me dig into the questions that have already been submitted. Thomas, I know you're on the chat and you threw up a question the other day. How's the new office space coming? Excellent. I owe you guys an update on the Dream Dive Locker. Appreciate each and every one of you that showed interest in that, because it was a little bit different from the usual videos I do. We're not really a DIY channel, obviously, and it was kind of out of our wheelhouse in terms of content that we put out. But certainly glad. Ooh, let's get some focus back on there. I don't know what exactly happened there. There we go. Yeah, so I do owe you guys an update. A lot has happened. We had really bad weather in February and a bunch of diving got cancelled. So I did more on the dive locker. And then obviously COVID-19 hit. So I've been self-isolating at the dive locker and doing a lot. We've kind of moved on to the renovation of the actual house now. So the locker's on pause right now. But I do owe you guys an update video, and that will be coming in the coming weeks, I promise. So thank you for that question, Thomas. Absolutely. What have we got? Have I ever been diving in the Med? Says Adam Biamonte. Yes, I have. I've dove Corsica, south coast of France, Majorca, a couple of the Greek islands, but not Cyprus, the one I really want to get to dive the Zenobia. That's still on my bucket list. But yes, I've dove a few different places in the Mediterranean. The thing that always bums me out about the Mediterranean is the overfishing and just the general lack of fish life. If you go back and watch some of the vintage diving shows, that the Cousteau era diving documentaries, the Mediterranean was just awash with fish, and you're brushing them out the way to see other things. And now you go down and you dive for 15 minutes, and then you go, oh, there's a fish, and it really, really bums me out. So I haven't done a lot there. I haven't worked in the Mediterranean, at least not on anything shore-based. But yes, we shall see. Steve is in the house. I'm going to throw his comment up here. When will you go back to Cayman to dive? As soon as I'm allowed to, Steve. Good to see you. You'll remember Steve from our video on wall diving. He was the former student of mine who I surprised down in Grand Cayman. That got a lot of traction, that video. I was really happy to see that. That was one of our more personal videos. We had a lot of fun making that together with my friend Menno, and yeah, a lot of good stuff. So Adam's saying he works in Corsica and he agrees, but very different out here in Corsica. Okay, well, I'd be willing to have my mind changed about that. Absolutely. So I should go back and give it a go. I remember diving a B-17 bomber out of Calvi in Corsica. That was a fantastic dive. Somewhere I have a photo that was taken on a film camera, transferred to digital, of me sitting in full scuba gear in the navigator seat or the pilot seat with my dive buddy of this B-17 bomber off the coast of Corsica. So that was a fantastic dive, absolutely. So there we go. Another question from Thermanti Pileptico 777. I'm just butchering that name. I'm going to keep doing it until I get it right. How are we going with the self-isolation? Pretty good, mate, to be honest. Both Karina and I are based at home all the time, so for us, like, working from home and being together all the time is not really anything new. Also, we're self-isolating here, and we're self-isolating at the new house. We're driving between the two without making any stops. We're not, socially distancing, I think, is the correct thing to say. But we're just cracking on with what we got to do, sanding floors, sanding walls, painting, all that good stuff. So we'd already had that planned for the month of April, and that's just business as usual, really. So there we go. Fantastic. 34 likes. Thank you very much. 158 people watching. Appreciate it. How are you guys all doing with the... Let me ask you guys a question. How are you guys all doing with the self-isolation? What's been going on? Have your businesses been affected? Are you still able to dive wherever you are? Give us the old heart symbol if you've been doing too much day drinking. I've got 0 hearts so far, so I'll know how many people have been day drinking by the number of hearts out there. There we go. What else? All right. Any other questions coming in? Very, very welcome. I had a great question from a guy called Rich Law. Rich Law, I don't know if you're on the live stream. If you are, mate, drop us a comment so I can know. But he asks, is spearfishing for halibut in 30-degree water with a dry suit in 300 feet of water a good idea? No, Rich, it's a terrible idea. When do we start? Let's go. I'm all about that. Sign me up. I'll bring my spear gun. We'll have a blast. Thank you for your question, Rich. Mike Misner, one of our very earliest subscribers, he asked on one of our videos, what cameras are we using to make these videos? The camera you're seeing me through right now is a Panasonic GH5 mirrorless camera. All the early stuff on our channel up to DEMA last year was shot on iPhone XS or GoPro. I mean, those are the only 3 cameras we've used for everything on this channel. So I hope you enjoy that. Chef Warthog, asks, oh, let me get that out of the way. Ever dive on wrecks in North Carolina? No, that is on my bucket list. I have friends who are instructors up in North Carolina, Brian being one of them, another guy called Garrett who's actually off with the Navy at the moment, but he's a fantastic dive instructor as well. And he, you know, I've got an open invitation to get up there. So I just need to make the time and go and do it because it is absolutely on the bucket list. All right, who else we got? We got Prop on Tour. How old are you? This is actually one of my best friends, Brian Kilcoyne, up in New Jersey. You know damn well how old I am. And that's what it is. So leave me alone, Brian. I just recently did Brian's open water certification and advanced certification, and he's fallen in love with diving, and it's all my fault that he's spending all his money, which makes me happy. On dive gear and dive trips. What else do we have here? Okay, here's a great question. I'm going to butcher this name as well. Salih Ali asked, do you have any tips for new underwater photographers? Let me put that back up there. Hang on. Since you're a great digital media maker, well, I don't know if I'm a great digital media maker. That's hyperbole at best. But do I have tips for new underwater photographers? Yes. Get whatever camera you can afford and start taking photos or videos or whatever you want to do. But just start. Don't wait and save up for a huge, expansive package and you've got to have the right strobes and the right... No, whatever camera you have is the right camera. You know, if you have a phone, get a phone housing for the camera and start taking photos underwater, because the sooner you start, the more practice you'll have. I am a very average underwater videographer and photographer. I've said that in other videos before. That's no surprise to any regular watcher of this channel. But the point is to get as much experience as you can and do as much as you can, and you will get better. I've got better since we started this channel, I believe. So whatever you've got, if it's a GoPro or a Paralens or a case for your camera, don't wait to get the perfect camera set up. Just start. Just start taking photos on every dive. Have a camera with you all the time, and just snap away and have fun doing it. That's my best advice for starting. All right, what are the questions we got here? All right, I think I'm a little bit behind you guys on the chat, so I'm going to come over here. We got a question from Speedy Bob. Fantastic name. Speedy Bob. How speedy are you, Bob? Are the regulators you rent out to your students MARAs? I heard getting certified to service them was incredibly difficult. Not sure about that. Well, the regulators I rent out are Apex. I don't rent MARAs regulators. Getting certified to service any regulator is a bit of a chore. You have to kind of nag down the manufacturer, and then for some reason they seem to have reluctance to get people set up to actually do the service. I've had a real chore trying to get to Apex service level technician. I haven't made it yet. So my best advice to you is to contact MARAs or find a local dealer. Or if maybe you already are a local dealer, you've got to go straight to them and just badger them until you put the course on. One thing I will say is a great place to do service level technician courses is at the DEMA show, and they do these big events there where you can just go and get certified on a whole bunch of different regulators by the different manufacturers' actual service technician instructors. So definitely check that out if that's something that's available to you. All right, I got to throw up a question from Menno. What is my view on valet concierge diving in vacation destinations? He knows the answer to that, but he wants me to share it with you. And I'm going to in an upcoming video. It's been on the list of Mouthpiece Monday videos that I'm going to make. So it's up and coming, but I'm not a massive fan of it, and I'll explain why in the upcoming videos. Okay, another question for Rich Law. Thanks for being here, Rich. Let's go spearfish some halibut, mate. Do you recommend spending the time to dive for business purposes? Do you think that the market is too saturated with instructors and other divers trying to make money? Great question. Depends where in the world you are and what you want to do for diving. I say this to all newly certified instructors that are looking to go full time and make a living. It is not enough to just be a dive instructor. You can't do it because it's a minimum wage job and tips. You're never going to get ahead. You're never going to be able to save up and buy a dive center. You're never, without outside support, obviously. So it's not enough to just be a dive instructor. You need to be a dive instructor that self-markets. You need to have your own brand, your own website. You need to recruit your own students. You can't just go and work at a dive center and wait for people to give you, students to walk in through the door. In the same way that you could have a dive center and not be able to, if you didn't do any marketing of the dive center, you're not going to get any people walking through the door either. So I advocate that any newly qualified instructors create their own brand, build a blog, build a YouTube channel, whatever you want to do, and self-advocate. In which case, you're going to stand head and shoulders above all the other instructors out there. Do I think that there is too many dive instructors in the world? Well, one thing's for sure, there's definitely more and more each year. The IDCs are just pumping out instructors. But I can tell you right now, thinking back to my IDC, I think we were a class of 16, and of the 16, I think only three that I know of are still working full-time in scuba diving, me being one of them. So that might give you some food for the thought. I think there's more instructors than there are working instructors. That's definitely true. Lewis down in South Africa asks, James, have you ever dived in South Africa? And if so, where was your favourite spot? I haven't worked down there, but I have spent quite a lot of time in South Africa, and I did do obviously the cage diving with the great whites, but I haven't done the sardine run yet. That's another thing on my bucket list that I haven't done. So let's make the bucket list up now. Great Lakes, not happening this year, unfortunately. North Carolina, Outer Banks, Rex. Might happen if this whole thing gets lifted. And then sardine run. I got to do the sardine run. Lewis, if you can hook me up, mate, I'll happily come down and do that with you. That'd be fantastic. Got a lot of friends in South Africa. Dying to get back down there. So yeah, absolutely. All right. We had a fair amount of questions about this bad boy. This is probably our most watched video so far, 500,000 views, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. So I figured I'd answer some questions, or the most common questions that people put in the comment section on that video. Starting with how much does it cost? There isn't a price yet. That was a prototype. They're not at market yet. They're still trying to work out all the kinks with the training and the CE and the whole thing. I think this product is absolutely crazy, and it's either going to crash and burn or it's going to be the next best thing. And I can't decide which it's going to be yet. They have a lot of questions to answer, that's for sure. I tried to keep it as neutral as possible in that video that we shot at their booth in Dima. But they don't have a price for it yet. What about bailout redundancy? People are asking that left, right, and center. Well, absolutely, you're going to need some kind of bailout or redundancy. That's not even a question. So you're either going to be slinging a stage bottle, or you're going to have a regular tank on your back with a regulator coming over. So if that thing fails on you, you can rip it off and plug into an open circuit source. How do you equalize? And also, how does it fit and seal? Were other questions in the comments for that video. It fits, seals, and you equalize like a full face mask. So if you've ever dove an ocean reef or an OTS mask, a full face mask, it fits the exact same. So it's not wrapping around the neck in any way. It's just sealing around the face and under the jawline to your face. And to equalize, you push the mask up, and there's a nose block, and that blocks your nose. It's in kind of a V shape. It blocks your nose, you equalize against that. So it fits, it feels, and it wears, and you equalize the same as a full face scuba mask. So I think they were the four most common questions on the Rebreather helmet. Brian Dudley asked a question related to that. how did the pool dive go for them at Dima? Not well, from what I heard. Not well at all. Like I said, prototypes. I wasn't actually there for the pool dive part. I missed it because I was filming in another booth. But there we go. But yeah, not well. What else do we have here? Another question here from Andre. Any news on Pompano Dive Center coming back? They left a huge gap for tech diving in South Florida. No news on Pompano Dive Center coming back, and the dive center that's taken their space doesn't seem to have much interest in running tech trips. They might do 1 or 2 a month. In addition to that, I mean, all their assets were sold off, all their bank system, all their gas was sold off. They sold off the boat. So no, I don't think we're going to see a new iteration of Pompano Dive Center, but hopefully somewhere in that Boynton Beach to Fort Lauderdale stretch of coast, someone else will pop up and take their space, because Pompano Dive Center, for all intents and purposes, without looking at their books, always seem to be busy. They were, a one boat operation, and they were running morning and afternoon most of the year. So there we go. Harry Pink's just joined. Any news on the dive locker? Already asked and answered, my friend, but yes, update on that coming to the channel very shortly. On your shelf, is that a switcher blade kit for GoPro? Hang on, what was that? On your shelf, is that switch? What are you looking at, man? No, Chef Warthog, you're gonna have to elaborate on that, because I'm not sure what you mean. What else have we got here on the channel? Skip Smith asks, can I compare dive organizations, meaning trading agencies, SSI, PADI, and GUE? Just those 3 specifically? Probably no, I can't, because I've never taught for GUE or SSI. I have taught for PADI in the past. Compare in what way? It depends what you're looking for out of the training agency, and I've taught this before. I think that was another question I got asked somewhere here. They said that I can't find it now, but there was another question that came up that said, oh, you seem to be kind of anti-PADI, which dive organization do you recommend? It's all about finding the agency that's right for you. From an instructor's point of view, what you're looking for is quality training material and support when you need it. Those are really the only 2 things that matter. Everything else is marketing and advertising. Nobody has ever refused to take a course with me because I didn't teach for an agency that they wanted to learn. So for example, if someone calls me up now and says, oh, can you teach a PADI open water? Well, no, I can't. I'm not a PADI instructor anymore. But I can teach an SDI open water because I teach for SDI TDI these days. They go, well, is it internationally recognized? And I say yes. And can I go diving with it and show the card? Will I get a card? Well, if you pass the course, you'll get a card. And is that as widely accepted as PADI? Yes, it is. Yes, absolutely. So from my point of view, it doesn't make a difference, it really doesn't to the diver. As long as it's internationally recognized, as long as the training is accredited, the logo on the card shouldn't matter to the consumer. Everything else is just advertising and marketing. So if you want me to, oh, why is that going like, there we go. Yeah. That's all I can say about that, really. I don't like to compare agencies. I think most of them are much the same. But it's just about finding, from an instructor point of view, quality training materials and also the right amount of support. So, what else we got here? Crunchy'd8. Can you do a video on twin tank versus single tank systems? Thanks. Yes, I can do that video. That shouldn't be too difficult. Ultimately, the main difference right now off the top of my head is that single tank is recreational diving and twin tank is usually for technical diving. There's no reason you can't do recreational dives on a twin tank setup, however, particularly if you are one of those people who is thirstier on air, a little bit of gas hungry, breathing like a runaway train. Then, you can strap twin tanks on and go for a dive, and you've got more gas, which is obviously safer. Obviously, there's a trade-off of it being heavier. But yes, we can make that video. That shouldn't be a problem at all. What else do we have here? Standing in John. Tom Lynn, thanks for being here, mate. Hey James, I've recently completed my DM and will be starting a job at one of the local dive shops whenever they can open again. Any tips for starting that job? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Congratulations on taking the step into the professional realm, Tom. Fantastic for you. Probably the biggest tip is to just never stop learning. There's going to be a lot of things that weren't taught during your DM course that you're going to learn on the job. So just be open to that. Be humble and be receptive of all the information that's going to come the way. And remember that you're in the customer service industry. That's probably the main thing. Everyone talks about standards, and they talk about the training and the techniques and the skills and all that kind of stuff. And all that stuff is absolutely crucial as well. But on top of that, you're also in the customer service industry. So think about it in that kind of terms. Your job as a dive master is to keep people safe and prepare equipment and carry tanks and take the rubbish out and clean the toilet and all the things that we have to do to run a dive center. But first and foremost, you're creating an experience for your guests. So keep that in the forefront of your mind and you will do well in the industry. That's all I can say about that. I hope that answers your question. We got Oscar S. Thanks for being here. Oscar's asking a good question too. Let me just get that up before it disappears from my chat. I only dive a dry suit. Should I get a jacket style BCD or a wing? Entirely up to you. I learned in a dry suit with a jacket style BCD, but if I was probably go diving tomorrow in a dry suit, I'd be in a backplate and wing, simply because a backplate makes up a lot of the weight that you need to carry to compensate for the dry suit. Hope that answers your question in short. What else do we have here? Eric E's here from the Middle Keys. Shout out, Islamorada Dive Center. How you doing, Eric? Good to see you. Corey Baldwin is here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Who else we got? Corey Baldwin, Corey M is here as well. I'll be in Bonaire in October. Is your trip still planned? Did you fill it yet? We have, like I said earlier, about 4 spaces left on that. I think we're going to fill it by the end of the trip. Sorry, by the start of the trip. By the time it starts, ready to go. You know what I mean. Anyway. Critter Hunter is in the house. If you want to see more from Critter Hunter, watch tomorrow's video. I've got interesting things for you coming your way from Mr. Critter Hunter himself. Jay Albert asked, great video, good advice. How can I find out when you're planning to dive the Great Lakes? I love diving the wrecks up here in the Great Lakes and would love to join your group. Thank you, Jay Albert. If you're in the house, drop us a comment and let me know. But we were planning to do the Great Lakes in June as a road trip from Miami, and I had or I still have the ambition to make a road trip buddy movie, not feature length, but let's say like a short film length, filming a group of my friends, divers, driving from Miami, making some stops along the way, having side adventures, going up to dive the Great Lakes, which is on my bucket list anyway, and just make a diving film that's not about diving, basically. Make a film about camaraderie in much the same way that climbing has done it, skiing has done it, and diving, I think, is lacking on that. Any diving film is basically an ecology or a marine biology documentary, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that is already saturated, and that's not what I want to do. I want to attract people into our sport and keep our sport alive and healthy. So I want to make that movie, but the idea of going to the Great Lakes was very much to be a small group trip for me and my buddies. It's not really something that we're selling or open to the public. That's now, with everything that's been going on, pushed off a year, so hopefully June 2021. That being said, if you're up there in the area, absolutely, let's meet up, let's grab a beer, and let's hang out for sure. What do we have going on? So we've got Craig Lowe here. He's asking, James, do you sell dive gear? No, I do not. I do not have any part in any retail operation. So no, I don't. I'm completely independent, and I pick and mix what brands I want to dive myself. So yeah, I'm completely brand agnostic, and I don't retail anything. Corey M just asked, on your shelf, what kind of camera is that a housing for? What do you mean, that one up there? That is a Kraken housing for a smartphone. So I sometimes throw my iPhone XS in it and can shoot 4K video for about $500. Well, not including the phone, but the housing's about $500. And you can't get a better underwater system that can shoot 4K for that money. That's insane. Good question here from Tom Foltz. Have you ever declined to certify a student either open water or always who clearly was not ready? Yes, I have. Multiple times. I mean, I didn't get into the industry to fail students. That's not why we become a dive instructor. We come to encourage people and grow the sport. But I will never pass a student that isn't ready. Most people have failed the course not because of skill performance, but because of attitude, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Skill performance is you keep trying until you get it, right? I can just show you a different way of doing a skill, and we can just repeat, and if we need to add on days or dives or so on, I'll keep going as long as you want to keep going. I won't fail you based on skills performance, because we'll just keep trying until either you get it or you give up, but I won't give up. So we'll just keep going, and there'll be additional expense, and it will get, take up my time, and we'll put the effort in, and we'll get you to where you need to be. So in terms of like failing a student on skill performance, that should never happen unless they really, really, why am I keep going? Come on now. So that should never happen. Attitude, however, is a very different thing. If I see that somebody is being cavalier or dangerous on a course, or not paying attention to set limits even after they've got the ability to do so, then that is a very serious thing, and that generally tends to be, if a student fails, it generally tends to be for having the wrong attitude towards the sport. So hopefully that answers your question there. Who we got now? Let me see. Finding Menno again. Hey buddy, how you doing? If you want to become a better diver but no pro ambitions, do a DM or go the tech route. There is no point in doing a DM course if you want to become a better diver but don't want to work in diving. All right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Let me move that mic, see if that helps. There we go. That's better. There is no point in doing a dive master course if you don't want to become a professional diver, and the reason for that is because that is all that certification is there for. It's there for you to be able to get liability insurance. So definitely go the tech route, learn new equipment configurations, learn how to go beyond the no decompression limit safely, and take it from there. Really. So that's my take on that, and I believe Menno, you agree with me on that. Dixie6, have you ever had any offers from scuba companies to be your sponsor? If so, who was it? I mean, sponsor's a big word. Not like, they want to back me and kick me out and the whole thing. I am a brand ambassador for Surfer, which is a company that I believe in and love what they're doing for both the environment and also make fantastic products, and the family-ran organization. I could go on and on about them. Again, big fan of their products, so I am a brand ambassador for them. I'm not sponsored by them. I didn't receive any money from them or whatever. I just got this sweet hat and a hoodie, which I love. In terms of me being sponsored, no, I haven't really been sponsored by any dive companies. We do make deals with different dive brands to produce content for them, because that's what I do for a business, but that's not really like sponsorship. We send them out a contract. We actually had 2 contracts out with major scuba manufacturers, one of which we were supposed to already have had filmed and in the can the end of March, the last week in March, or the second to last week in March. That's obviously been pushed back because of the whole COVID-19 situation. And another one for an Italian-based company that's been pushed off until later in the year as well for the same reason. So I do take these, deals. I don't really call that sponsorship, because it's not like I'm being back to live my life. I'm working for them and they're paying me, and it's an exchange of goods. But yes, I mean, we're open to brand deals, and we work to make media for a bunch of different companies, whether I'm in front of the camera or behind it. So hope that answers your question. If so, who was it? Not going to say yet, but you know, appreciate you digging. Thanks, Dixie6. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Matt Rivette asks, do you still go back to the UK and dive there sometimes? I haven't been back to the UK in a very long time, which is why I'm incredibly excited that I am going back this coming August, providing all travel issues are lifted. So, have I dove back in the UK since I left? No, I have not. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to do so. I've been reaching out to the guys at Simply Scuba with no response so far. If you're watching this, guys, come on now. I'd love to do a collaboration with you and go diving with Sean and Mark. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think we can make a great video out of that. And I also want to go down to Cornwall, my home county in the southwest of England, and get some local diving in down there and hopefully make some videos and show you guys where I grew up and the awesome fishing towns and the beautiful countryside of where I grew up. So that could be some things that happen this summer, providing obviously all conditions are right for that. So yeah. Critter Hunter says, I have loads of sponsors and most don't pay. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a thing. What time is it in the Philippines, Critter Hunter? My goodness me, you're up early or up late, depending how that rolls. Crunchy Date says, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Well, I mean, you're probably right, but I hope you're wrong, you know? Frederick asks, is doing cardio going to be helpful with air consumption, and what is your training regime? Great question. Yes, of course cardio is going to help. My training regime is very simple. I hate the gym, so I get outside as often as possible. I play tennis and rugby, and they are what keep me in check. If I absolutely have to, I will go to the gym, but I'm not good at like running in place or exercise bikes or that kind of stuff. I'm a big lad, but my gas consumption is pretty on point. Even for an instructor, I think it's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, the more cardio you can do, the better, absolutely. Conversely, strength-based training is actually worse for your air consumption because the more muscle you have, the more oxygen you need. So the faster you burn through it. So you could be super fit and have your cardio in point and be really lean and ripped and bulked up, and that's actually going to decrease your air consumption. So there's definitely a finding point there. If you look at free divers that, you know, they've got one lung full of air to work with, they tend to be very lanky, very skinny, no fat, but also no muscle. They tend to be very, you know, slender people. So 2 a.m. in the Philippines, Critter Hunter. It's great to have you here, mate. But you got to ask me, did you get up that early or are you still up? Water. Not vodka. So David Riffy, beg your pardon. Do Navy divers have the same experience level as technical divers? They have an experience way beyond technical divers. That's not equivalent. Technical divers, you've got to remember, is still recreational. We're still doing it for fun. Not to be confused with commercial diving where you're working underwater. Being a Navy diver is being a commercial diver because you're being paid to work underwater, and they do a lot of ordnance disposal and a lot of survey and underwater engineering and all that kind of stuff in the commercial realm. Do they use the same equipment that technical divers use in terms of closed circuit rebreathers or at least, you know, doubles tanks and all that kind of good stuff? Yeah, absolutely they do. Sorry, my camera's like phasing in and out of focus. I don't know why it should be locked on me, but no, Navy divers, very different from technical divers, absolutely. We got Kona Shore divers in Hawaii here. How you doing? We were out in Kona, what? Not that long ago, what, a year and a half ago, something like that. Absolutely fantastic shore diving out there. So it's great to have you with us. Really appreciate it. What other questions have we got? I don't see anything here. Like I said, I think my feed is a little bit behind you guys. M. Gibson asked me in a comment not that long ago, do you recommend or can you do a video on the refresher course? I've been out of the water for a long time and I'm looking back to get back to it real soon. Yeah, M. Gibson. Is that Mel Gibson? Maybe that's Mel Gibson. I'll do your refresher course, Mel Gibson. The original Mad Max movies were amazing. Uh, M. Gibson, yes, I can do a video on Wednesday refresher course, and absolutely, if you've been out the water for a long time, you should do a refresher course. Here's my take on refresher courses. The time when you should do a refresher course is when you first ask yourself if you think you should do a refresher course. But definitely at least a year. If you've been out the water for a year or longer, then you should do a refresher course, or at least if you've been diving for a long time, just your first dive back needs to be super, super easy. For a number of reasons, to check your your gear and make sure everything shakes down, and just to make sure you get your weighting right, and so on and so forth. But if it's been too long, if you've been out diving say for like 10 years, then there's value in just starting over. Just do your open water course again, bite the bullet, pay a few $100 and get a whole retraining going on, because what you can make up in an hour or half a day of refresher training is not the same as doing a whole course again. And if you've been out the water that long time, then there's definitely value in that. Logan Crocker says, do a DSMB deployment video. Mate, there are I thought about this many times, and it's been requested many times. There are about 900 DSMB deployment videos on the internet. There are so many. Like, if you put diving, just scuba diving, into YouTube search, you get mainly DSMB shooting videos. So I haven't made that video because it's already been made 900 times. If you want a recommendation for one, there is a great one by our friend Gary Dallas. So you can put in Gary Dallas DSMB deployment, and another great one by the late great Andy Phillips. So either of those two are textbook fantastic DSMB deployment videos, and I couldn't make a better video than those guys have already made. So look up those two and enjoy that. Okay, the eclectic engineer asks, what is your opinion on DIN versus yoke mount? DIN mount all the way. I mean, there's a reason technical divers use it, and that's because the O-ring orifice is inside the regulator. It's a lot more secure. So DIN mount all the way. However, sometimes you're in a challenge where only yoke tanks are available. But if you have a DIN regulator, you can slap a yoke adapter onto it and use it on a yoke tank. You can't do that the other way around. So always, if you're buying only one regulator, buy a DIN regulator. If you need a yoke adapter, if you're going to the Caribbean and they only have yoke tanks there, you can slap a yoke adapter onto it, and that way you're safe both ways around. So DIN 100%. I'm converting America to DIN one diver at a time, starting with you, the eclectic engineer. Thanks for being here. Critter Hunter says yoke is junk. I mean, it's not junk, but it's not as safe as DIN, in my opinion. All right, what else we got over here? Oh, for Friday, yeah. I mean, we all know what happened on Friday. Hi, James. Thanks for the video on Friday. One question is, I noticed a quick view of my fins, and they were sling style. What is your opinion on them versus the strap style? So, thank you for your question, Heather. If you're watching this, drop us a comment. Let us know that you're here and where you're watching from. Yeah, I mean, that just is the way that the technology goes. We used to have these flappy rubber straps that were very easy to wear out and got brittle with age and just ended up ripping out. And now we have a much better solution of these strong bungee style, or as you call them, a sling style strap. They're faster to put on, they're faster to take off, and they're my preferred, fin strap now, for at least for recreational diving. For tech, I generally have the metal spring style on both my jet fins and my RK3s. But for recreational diving, shore diving, I love those Maras of Antiquattros with the rubber bungee strap. Fantastic. And that's definitely the way to go. So hope that helps. Hope that answers that question. What else have we got? We got a question here from Poom Twin. Thanks for being here. Any questions on buying my first regulator set for recreational diving? Also tips on setup, traditional versus long hose. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to begin answering that. That is a huge question. Thank you so much. And a lot of pressure to put on one man to help you buy your first regulator set. But I'll give it a go, because I'm not sure I have a challenge. So first off, DIN or yoke, already answered, Your Honour. Definitely go with DIN. it depends what kind of recreational diving you're looking to do. Cold water, then you're going to want something that's environmentally sealed. Warm water, that doesn't matter so much. Do you think you're going to grow into going to deeper diving and eventually go to tech, and you want a regulator that can last you a little bit longer, then definitely go for a diaphragm. If you're only ever going to do like a few dives a year, shallow warm water, then there's nothing wrong with getting a piston regulator for that kind of circumstance. But as with anything in diving, the more money you spend, the better quality gear you get. In general, there's a couple of exceptions to that where you're overpaying for things that aren't actually that good. But I think you should be looking to spend at least $600 or $700 on your first stage and second stage to get something that's going to last you a long time. In the US at least, and you can transfer that to wherever you are in the world. In terms of setup, it depends also what BCD situation you're going to be in as well. A lot of people are trying to do a jacket style BCD with a long hose, and that's just a disaster. Don't do that. Backplate and wing BCD setup, no reason you can't go for a long hose on a recreational setup. Absolutely. Just do it properly. Get a properly long hose, a 6 or 7 foot. Don't get a 5 footer. I see people do that all the time, and it just ends up wrapped around their head like a one-man band. It doesn't look good. So get a proper long hose. Make sure it's stowed away properly, and make sure that you train your buddy on the out of air procedure if you're diving a long hose. Otherwise, just get the regular setup. There's no issues with that at all. So there you go. Yeah, Critter Hunter, my camera keeps trying to autofocus on the shelf behind me. On your shelf behind, yeah. I don't know why, because it's on face focus, so maybe it thinks that my face looks like the shelf behind me. That's not great. But anyway, at least the stream's going and you can all hear me, which is fantastic. Ali still in the house. Any recommendations for a dive school down in Florida that takes the GI bill? Thanks, Ben. So Ben, not Al. Ali Amber. Okay. Hey Ben, how you doing? That takes the GI. Not off the top of my head, mate. I don't know of any. I've tried many times, and they say either that it's because I'm foreign owned or because I haven't had my LLC set up for more than 3 years, and I've had different excuses, but it seems to be really hard to crack into. I would love to be able to accept the GI Bill, because I would get divers who are, 100% into it, completely dedicated. For me, it's a great pool of students to draw from, and at the same time, it's making the GI Bill work for the people it's supposed to work for. So I'm a big fan of it. It's not happening right now. But at the same time, I also can't recommend anyone to you because I don't know anyone that does the GI Bill. One person you could try reaching out to is James Baldwin. He is a vet himself. You might want to reach out to him. He's at the Boynton Beach Dive Center. So maybe they do it, or maybe they know somebody who does. So give those guys a try, I guess. Hope that helps. Tian says, on the subject of regulators, thanks James, I follow your choice, Scuba Pro Mark 17 Evo with the G260. Yeah, that's my recreational reg. It's the only yoke regulator I use, and I use it just for quick on and offs, and everything else is apex and din. But I still have that regulator. I still love that regulator. I still think that the G260 is one of the best second stages that's ever been made. So yeah, and Mark 17 is just a thing of beauty on the first stage. So. All right, Critter Hunter's going to do a live in a few days. You're going to give us a time for that? Am I going to have to get up at 2 a.m. in the morning to badger you with questions, Critter Hunter? Let me know. But thanks for being here. Appreciate it, mate. You're going to see Mr. Carmack's presence on a video that we're dropping tomorrow. So I hope you enjoy that. Eric E says he thinks Rainbow Reef does GI Bill. And Shuntao says he thinks that they do GI too, but he would never go there. Yeah. Okay. Adam Biamonti says, what do you think on side inflator BCDs? Great question, Adam. So by which you mean the little down here on the... Yeah, I don't like them at all. I don't trust them. I think it's black magic, it's voodoo, and I think it's a gimmick. I think it's a solution for a problem we didn't have. Basically, we had a great inflator hose here system with a a button. It's flexible. You can hold it up, and in the meantime it hangs down, and it solves a problem that we didn't have. So I think it's gimmicky. I would never use one. I don't trust it. I don't trust not to knock it by accident. So yeah, no, I'm going to do that. Good night, Mr. Carmack. Sleep well, sir. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Guys, if you haven't seen Critter Hunter already, you've got to go check that out, because that is my new YouTube obsession. You're welcome, Adam. Appreciate it. Let's have a look over here. What haven't I answered yet? Wei Hang says, have you been to any dive sites in Southeast Asia? Can you share some of your experiences? Wei, if you're in the live chat here, mate, by all means, let us know that you're here. Appreciate it. Yes, I did my dive master in Indonesia, in the Gili Islands between Bali and Lombok. I was out there for 6 weeks. Fantastic experience, amazing diving. Just, I mean, sea snakes and sharks and mantas and everything on every dive. It was absolutely amazing. I did some freelancing in Thailand. I've dove the Philippines. I've dove Papua New Guinea. I've dove pretty much all of the South Pacific and Micronesia. So yeah, I've done a fair amount in Southeast Asia. Was a fantastic time of my life. Andre De asks, have I ever had any scary experiences? Many scary experiences. How much time have we got, guys? I see we've just passed the 1 hour mark. Many scary experiences. The most scary experience I've ever personally been involved in that affected, that was on me and on my dive, was a downdraft in Indonesia while I was doing my DM. We came around the corner on this drift dive. I mean, it's called deep turbo. It's super fast, and then you're just out on this wall, and we got caught in a downdraft. And if you're not familiar with that, it's where the ocean falls like a waterfall because of the sheer force of the current and different salinities mixing. And we got pulled into this downdraft where you're basically being sucked down to a point where we had to like grab on and hold on, and it was like being in a wind tunnel. It was incredibly scary. I thought I was a goner for sure, and we basically had to climb our way up. Even inflating things didn't even, inflating our BCD. One guy shot his SMB and it went and shot down again past him, and the reel was paying out, and that was incredibly frightening to see. Yeah. Other scary experiences. I mean, we've lost divers on dives before. Not me personally, but I've been on dive boats where divers have been lost before. I've done, body recoveries that are pretty, hairy and scary to have to do. And yeah, it's, the longer you're in this, it's a dangerous sport. There will be scary, there will be scary experiences from time to time. You just kind of, you don't know how you're going to handle them until you're there, really. There's nothing you can really do to prepare for that. Stephen asks, I know you're a wreck diver, but any interest in caves since Florida is known for cave country up north? Yeah, Stephen, great question, mate. Florida has the best of both worlds. We've got fantastic reefs down in the Keys. We've got fantastic wrecks off the South Florida Atlantic coast down to Key Largo and beyond. And we have cave country in the north with all the freshwater springs and systems up there. It's the best place in the world for all those different kinds of diving. I said the best reefs I've ever dove were in Palau. Absolutely true. There's a little bit of cave diving in Palau and a little bit of wreck diving, but the reefs are the best. Truk Lagoon, fantastic wreck diving, no cave diving. Why would you go to Truk Lagoon and go cave diving? That doesn't make any sense. Florida, we've got everything. It's absolutely fantastic here. I am a wreck diver through and through, and if you ever find a wreck or some sharks or even any fish in caves, let me know and I'll come up and have a look at them. Otherwise, it's just wet rocks. No, I'm kidding. I will eventually get to cave diving. I've done some cave diving and some cavern diving before, obviously. I'm not an instructor for any of that, I must say. But it's just not something that I'm really drawn to. It doesn't excite me. That's really the only answer I've got. But when I've run out of other things that I want to go through and other items on my bucket list, then I'll eventually get to that, Stephen. So hope that answers your question. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Let me see. Eric Guntel's got a great question. What got you into scuba? Um, I was obsessed with scuba from a very, very young age because I was having swimming lessons in a local swimming pool, and I saw in the deep end that there was a scuba class going on, and we were like diving down and getting bricks off the bottom, coming up and putting them back, and diving back down again, and all that kind of stuff. And every time we dive down, I had my little swimming goggles on, I'd look over and I'd see these people were doing skills and were breathing underwater, and I was just fascinated. So I don't know how old I was, somewhere between 6 and 8, I want to say. But I just remember that being a thing. I was like, wow, those people are breathing underwater. That's amazing. So I got into it as soon as I could, which in my case was actually just before I went to university, and that was really my earliest memory, and that kind of sealed the deal for me. And yeah, that was pretty much how I got into it. Eric, thanks for your question. Appreciate it. Frederick asks, have I ever been to a recompression chamber? What happened? No, I haven't ever been to a recompression chamber. So I can't really answer that. I have seen people who are in recompression chambers. It's really undramatic. Probably, they're either going in feeling unwell or they're going in unconscious. So either way, they're not making a great fuss about it. And you just kind of like lying there for 5 or 6 hours of doing not very much. If you're lucky, they have a TV outside the chamber that you're looking at through perspex. Yeah, and it's not particularly exciting. Yeah, one of the videos that I actually want to make is we have a chamber here that's operated by a doctor who's a friend of mine, and I want to go in and show you guys what that actually looks like. So that is on my list of videos to make. Thank you very much for your question. What else? Let me see what else we've got here. Just scrolling down. I'm like way behind you guys, so I know you guys are asking a lot of questions, but I'm trying to get to them in the order that they were asked. Another question from Andre. How do you personally benefit from scuba? Well, I mean, it's my livelihood. It's my life. I mean, I don't know how to answer that other than saying, come on now. This is my face here. You know what my face looks like. Let me move my hat up. How do I benefit from scuba? It relaxes me. It de-stresses me. If I haven't been scuba diving for a while, I get antsy. I get restless. So personally, that for me is incredibly enriching to be able to go and be underwater and have no phone calls and no emails and just be isolated and calm, and just when I get to fun dive, which is a rare and splendid thing, or my wife and I just go for a fun dive, that for me is like golden time for me. I absolutely love just diving with no agenda and going for fun. But also it's how I make my livelihood, which is, I wouldn't change that for the world. So it means a lot to me. Wilski Andrew says, have you ever had a tech student dive in side mount? Yeah, of course I have, absolutely. I'm not against side mount as long as it's the right tool for the job. Anna's, I'm going to butcher that, Zakelli, I want to say Zakelli, maybe? Sorry, Anna. Do I like side mount diving? It's a tool for the job. It's like saying you've got a toolbox and you've got some drills and some screwdrivers and some hammers and a paintbrush in this toolbox, right? If you only have a toolbox full of hammers, when it comes to paint the wall, you're going to be pretty useless, or screw a screw in. You need to have all the different tools available to you. The type of diving I'm doing, side mount isn't really the right tool for the job, so I tend to not do that too much. But yeah, I don't have anything against any gear configuration at all. Hope that answers your question. I think it does. My wife just said your answer and burst out laughing. She thinks every pro diver is the same. Adam, I don't know which question you're referring to there, but that's a great comment. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Love the Q&A session. So David Taylor, love the Q&A session. I'm a paddy rescue diver into side mount now and interested and want to practice rescue with side mount. Is there a different approach to undertaking a rescue slash being rescued. There are some differences, yeah, absolutely. You're in a slightly different gear configuration. So if you think about rescue diver core skills of getting an unconscious diver back onto the boat and stripping their gear off, you've got to think about your hose routing a lot more than you do in like a normal back mount setup. So absolutely something that needs to be practiced. I'd be curious to know if you did your rescue diver course in a side mount configuration. But yeah, there are absolutely differences that need to be practiced and trained for. I always get very nervous when asking questions about training on this channel because, as I said many times before, I'm not trying to teach anyone to dive through the internet. You guys are watching this video. I don't have a liability release on any of you, so I don't want to... well, James from Divers Ready told me it was okay, so I did it, So I always kind of I'm a little hesitant to answer any questions that are training specific related. But there we go. Callie Christopher asks, what's your favorite hobby other than diving? I have lots of hobbies. Cooking. I'm a good cook. I think pretty solid there. Do enjoy that. I play rugby. I play tennis. Pretty decent at both. Played rugby for very, very many years. And just movies, books, music, playing guitar, all that good stuff. So hope that helps. Harry Pink asks, have you ever considered starting up a dive podcast? Not seriously, Harry, no. Thanks for being here, Harry. But I haven't really. I guess podcasts are very weird to me. That when they came out, they were all the rage and everyone had a podcast, and then podcasts kind of went away, and then all of a sudden podcasts came back, and I don't know why they came back or if they'd ever go away again. YouTube is solid. YouTube is not going anywhere. You look at the people that are longer on YouTube than I am. I like to make the content, edit the content, and put it out there and have it be this succinct piece of video. I think podcasts are more freeform. This is my first time doing a live, and I'm enjoying it so far. I hope you guys are too. I think that this could serve as a podcast in a way, and certainly with the the technology that we've got today, we could do guests on a live and that kind of thing, and we can record it and we can throw it up on YouTube. So that's kind of like a podcast, but I'd have to look into it. I know there are a lot of great scuba diving podcasts out there, so I'd have to think about it. I don't know if there's any value in me putting time and effort into that. Maybe that'll be something that comes with the new Dream Dive Locker. Who knows? Charles Darr, new diver. Do you have any recommendations on treatment of equipment since it appears we won't be able to dive for a month or two? Great question, Charles. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Make sure you give it a thorough rinse out. Soak your dive computers in fresh water. It does look like we're not going to be able to dive for a month or two. Make sure everything dries out thoroughly. Make sure your BCD is fresh water rinsed on the inside, whatever kind of BCD you've got, whether it's a wing or a jacket style. Make sure you wash all of that out. Sorry, I just seen a very funny question. I'm going to answer that right now. And then make sure everything's dried thoroughly, and then store it in, in room temperature air. So if you live down here in South Florida, don't leave your gear out in your garage or anywhere that's not air conditioned. But otherwise, just normal, regular room temperature. Make sure everything's dry. Be careful with folding dry suits. You don't want to put too much of a strong crease in them because that's where they'll age over time. But I'm hopeful that we'll get back in the water sooner rather than later. Not too soon, but soon enough before we all drive each other mad. Stuart H, hello from England. Why do you wear a hat indoors? Fantastic question. I don't wear a hat indoors all the time. I'm wearing one right now because I have a bright studio light up there and it helps me see the screen. So I'm not one of those people that wears a hat all the time, and I know that we're English and we're not supposed to wear hats indoors. That's not how we're brought up. But I wear this right now just to literally because I've got a really bright studio light, and if I don't wear the hat I end up squinting, and you don't want me sitting here with sunglasses because that looks even more stupid. So there you go. That's why. Stephen, another question from Stephen. Thank you so much. Favorite Florida wrecks? I've got a few. For me, for training, you can't beat the Spiegel Grove down in Key Largo. You just can't beat it. She's massive. You're not going to see the whole thing in 100 dives. I'm still learning her in terms of the inside and the advanced wreck penetrations. and rooms after rooms after rooms. She's still in great condition as a wreck, and she's just huge. And because she's got such a massive profile, you can get everything from sort of 60, 70 feet at the top of the superstructure to about 140 feet, 145 feet to the sand. And that's great for teaching a whole range of courses, from everything from advanced open water to trimix. So in terms of like favorite wrecks, that's a great one. I love the Dwayne too, which is not too far from the Spiegel Grove because of the bull sharks. There's bull sharks there pretty much year round. I think I've only ever done like 2 or 3 dives where I haven't seen bull sharks on that wreck. Also a big fan of the Lowrance and the Hydro Atlantic, which are trimix dives. They're 200 feet, but fantastic wrecks to dive. The Hydro Atlantic in particular is a big favorite of mine. So there you go. There'd be my top 4. John Rand, what can divers do while we can't dive? Answered that question, my friend, last week's video. Where were you? I'm just kidding. So recap of last week's video, I was talking about like, okay, so you can take courses. There's e-learning out there right now. You can catch up on your reading. That's what I've been doing, just plowing through books and enjoying that. You can do gear checks. You can still support your local dive centers by getting your gear serviced. A lot of the dive shops, which are non-essential businesses, essential to me, but non-essential businesses in the eyes of the government, still have their service department open. So you can pack up your regs, pack up your beastie, send them off for service, get them back, and then when we're allowed to go diving, we can. So all those kind of things, but do check out that video that we posted a couple of weeks ago on things to do while the shutdown is on. But thanks very much for your question, John, and thanks for being here in the chat. Harry Pink says he's loving it. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for the question as well, Harry. Daz Dragon says it's much easier to edit after the dive. I'm not sure what that means, but I appreciate you being here, Daz. Tom Folk says, as a Northeast wreck diver, we rig up with 120 cubic feet H valves and 40 cubic feet of sling tanks. What is your opinion on this setup? If it works for you, it works for you. Absolutely. I have no problems with that at all. I have a set of 120 cubic feet, and they are bloody heavy. So as long as your back allows you to dive that setup, there's no issue with that at all. Yeah, absolutely. Hope that answers your question, Tom. Thanks for being here. Jacob Kraus, what do you think is the most underrated piece of dive equipment? Jacob, thank you for your question. Again, I think, you know, we made a video about this in the early days of the channel, the SMB. It's got to be. Everyone, you know, here's why I think the SMB is so underrated. I know personally 4 or 5 people whose lives have been saved by one. So there's that. That's the importance of the piece itself. You never see a gear package that includes an SMB. If you go to a dive store and you say, oh yeah, we're running this special and you can buy this BCD regulator, fins, mask, and, you know, snorkel, all from the same manufacturer, and it's this price. Why are you not including an SMB in that package? It's the one thing I'll never get in the water without. I don't think there's enough focus on it in the training. How to inflate one on the surface, how to inflate one underwater. So for me, I think it's hugely underrated. It's something that I absolutely fully push on all my students, and, you know, not that I sell them myself, but I'm like, you've got to have one of these, and if they're renting gear from me, they get one of those included. That's you're not going to get in the water without it. So for me, that's the most underrated piece of dive equipment. You just like me pronouncing your name wrong, I think. Themantipilemtico 777, new diver, what fins do you recommend? I made this video with the accessories video for recreational diving. You've got to go a long way to beat the Mares Avanti Quattros. I mean, you know, they've been around since the 70s with very few tweaks to their design. They've sold over 1 million pairs of those fins with good reason. They're just fantastic. They last a long time. They work forever. And with the addition of the sling straps now, I think that they're probably the best recreational fins out there. And they're a good mid-ground. So they work for great big guys like me, little tiny skinny people. You know, they've got they've got the right blend of stiffness and flexibility. So I think for me that, you know, if I was only ever going to use one pair of fins for the rest of my life for all diving I'm ever going to do, it's probably going to be the Avanti Quattros. I actually didn't buy a second pair of fins until I was a dive master and started getting into technical diving. I just had Avanti Quattros, and that, you know, the first 500 dives I think I did in Avanti Quattros. And if you and I were going for a recreational dive tomorrow, that's probably the fins I'm going to take off the shelf, despite the fact I've probably got about 10 different pairs right now. So, yeah. B. St. John asks, what do you use to edit your videos? Adobe Premiere. I do all the work in Adobe Premiere. I hope that helps there. I have the Adobe Creative Cloud, so the thumbnails are made in Photoshop. I use Lightroom for photo editing, and I use Premiere for video editing. So there we go. We're flying through these questions now. Fantastic. Callie Christopher, recommendations on first backplate and wing setup. Absolutely. Without getting brand specific here, for recreational diving, buy a generic backplate, buy a single piece harness, and don't spend too much. Remember, you can buy webbing for about $1.50 a foot. I don't know how much it is wherever you're asking from, Cali, Christopher. I'm guessing California, maybe Cali, Mexico, who knows. But you can buy webbing for a couple of dollars per foot. So if you need 12 foot to make a full harness setup, you can do that very, very easily. You can buy the hardware for a couple of dollars. So when I see these, these one-piece harness kits that sell for like $90, I'm amazed that anyone falls for that. Same with the backplate. Backplate is either a piece of bent aluminium or a piece of bent steel. That's all a backplate is. So if you want to pay extra money to have some dive manufacturer's stamp pressed into it, go right ahead. The only reason that I have an Apex backplate at all is because I was working for a shop that sold Apex and I got it for less than cost. I got a fantastic deal on it. That's the only reason. If I was going out tomorrow to buy a backplate and wing, not working for a dive retailer right now, I would just buy a generic backplate, a piece of, it's just a piece of stainless steel or aluminium, as I said. So whatever budget you've got to buy your backplate and wing, my recommendation is, go cheap on the harness, go cheap on the hardware. Obviously, still get stainless steel and good quality, but not like name brand stuff, and spend money on a quality wing with 30 to 45 pounds of lift. There we go. Hope I answered your question, Callie Christopher. Thank you so much for being here in the chat. We really appreciate it. Frederick asks, is the 100th dive a new dive a thing? Yes it is, and it needs to be taken serious because it's tradition. And what are we without tradition? I'm kidding. Yes, it is a thing that some people do. I have seen that be a thing that has happened. Hope that works for you. Brad Allen asks, Strat or Telly? The correct answer to that, my friend, is Les Paul. Non-diving related questions popping up here, left, right, and centre. What else do we have? Raul Garcia asks, what is the best month and place to dive for lobster in Florida? The best month to dive is in season, so that's any time from August through to the beginning of May. Colder water is generally going to give you sweeter fleshed lobster, and avoid mini season at all costs, because that is like a 2-day amateur hour, and just wait the 2 weeks until regular season opens. Mini season is an absolute joke. The best place to dive for lobster, well, I haven't dove all the different places, but I have a friend who's very prolific down in the Keys, in Key Largo and Islamorada, and he does all right. So I'm going to go with that for an answer. I do a lot out of just out of Miami and North Miami area, and we do all right too. So Stuart H says, I'm too pretty to play rugby. That's very kind of you, mate, but if you knew how many times this nose has been reset, you wouldn't be saying that. The place way to store SMB in a tech setup. Sean Tower asks, the best way to store your SMB in a tech setup, I presume by tech setup you mean a backplate and wing. I have a video on that coming up. I was actually editing it before we went live, but I store mine on bungees on my backplate back here on my kidney, which does a number of different things, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I got a fantastic question here. I got to answer this one. You ready? Dan Bowling Burrs. Dabolic Burls. I hope I butchered that. If you could do fantasy dive agency from each of the different agencies, what bits are you taking from each agency? Maybe one agency's e-learning, the ethos of another, etc., etc. Okay, let me go through it for you. I would go with Paddy's brand recognition and their marketing power and collateral, because you've got to sell it, right? I mean, that's what Paddy do better than all the other agencies. That's why they're the biggest agency in the world. So I would have their brand recognition and their marketing material. I would go with TDI's books, manuals, and e-learning program. I still think they have the best training materials in terms of the quality of their manuals, the quality of their e-learning program. And I would go with Raid's ethos in terms of you are not allowed to teach on your knees. You are not allowed to disparage or be disrespectful of anyone else on social media as a professional member. I think all those things are fantastic from an ethos point of view. So I would go with some kind of a mix of those three to make my fantasy dive agency. But Debalo Bills, thank you so much for that question. That was a fantastic question to have asked. So Eric Guntal, he's asked this question a few times, so I've got to hit it here. I think we touched on it earlier, but what is your opinion on an underwater camera just getting into diving and taking pictures? Like I said earlier, you know, the Sea Life cameras are fantastic because you're getting the whole package, very attractive price point, and they produce a really nice image. So definitely have a look at Sea Life. If you want a camera that works under the water and on top of the water, then go with, you know, on an action camera sort of basis. You can't go wrong with a GoPro. And if you're only ever going to use it for diving, you can have a look at the Paralens if you want something that's mountable and more on the action camera style. But for a basic camera setup with a couple of lights and the camera, I would highly recommend Sea Life. I think they do a great job. So, Crunchy Date says you can tell he played rugby by his ears as well. No, these are headphones, mate. You can't see my ears. Adam B. Monty says, have you ever used carbon fiber tanks? Any thoughts? I have used carbon fiber tanks, and I think they're brilliant, but they are bloody expensive. So my thoughts on those are, when they come down in price, I will consider investing in them. But in terms of like trim and strength and weight, you can't get better. So yeah, big fan of carbon fiber, but just damn, they're pricey. You know, I think about how many other tanks I could buy for the money of one carbon fiber tank, and it makes it hard to justify for me. But absolutely, that's the way of the future. Just, you know, hope the pricing comes down a little bit. Right, how are we? We'll go. Snafu. Hi to everyone from Scotland. Welcome. How you doing, man? Was my 100th dive nude? Yes, it was. It was in the English Channel. I think it was like October. That's all I've got to say about that. John Rand says, this is cool. It would be perfect for happy hour. I'm not stopping you, mate. Crack a cold one. I mean, I'm on the water right now because I've got to keep my wits about me with all you sharks in the water. But, you know, this isn't vodka. I promise. But cheers to you. You know, don't mind that at all. What else do we have? Another question on side mount there. Again, guys, apologies if you've asked a question I haven't got to it yet. I'm behind you guys on the scroll here. Tom Fault says, why not consider doing this on a regular basis for the duration of the current crisis as sort of diver's happy hour? I'm totally game for that, you know, absolutely. Tom, let me know what your tipple is, mate, and we can have a drink together. I don't see why we wouldn't. I didn't put my logo up. Look, that's you know, that's Amateur Hour 101. Another question from the comments. How do you maintain your equipment in the best possible condition? Would be nice to have a video. That's from Lorenzo Maraturi. Maraturi. If you're watching this, Lorenzo, thanks so much for your question. I appreciate it. I mean, there is nothing better you can do for your equipment than fresh water if you've been diving in salt, and just to make sure it's dried thoroughly. So the longer you can soak it in fresh water, if you have the ability at home in a bathtub or just a rinse bin or whatever you can make up, just soak it for the longest amount of time, because a quick dunk in fresh water isn't enough to get all the salt off of your gear. You need to be able to soak it, let the salt dissipate into the fresh water, even change that water out and put fresh water in again, and just keep flushing it and flushing it and flushing it. Salt is the enemy of dive gear, and yet we want to go diving in the ocean. So there's a paradox there that we need to overcome, and really your best bet is fresh water. Cheers to everyone having a drink, Adam. Absolutely. please do. I mean, what else are we going to do right now? Andre DeWar says, really appreciate your polite, honest, and to the point approach to us and the sport. Mate, I'm all about growing scuba diving. That's all I want to do. You know, and I want to make sure that you guys get the most bang for your buck when it comes to your training and your equipment. And I'm all about growing the sport. So anything I can do to do that is really my passion. It's my pleasure. And I couldn't do it without you guys. So I appreciate each and every one of you being here. We've got like 145 eyes on right now, which is what I thought. Like if 20 people show up to this, it'd be amazing. So really, really happy with that. Thank you so much. B. St. John votes for Divers Happy Hour as well. Couldn't agree more. Crack a cold one, B. St. John. I don't care what time of the day it is. Wherever you are, do it. Absolutely. Alan Jarvis asks, what dive computer do you use? A bunch of different ones. Right now you'll see that I'm actually wearing an Aqualung i200C. This was given to me for a review for videos that we made for Scuba Diver Magazine's channel. It's not a dive computer that I use. I actually almost broke it the other day on a tech dive. It freaked out because I forgot I was wearing it as a watch and didn't take it off. But my main computers are Shearwaters. You know, you go on a tech boat here in South Florida. I don't know if it's the same wherever you are in the world, Alan. But if you're here and you've got 10 tech divers on a boat, you've probably got 20 Shearwater computers on that boat. 2 each. No word of a lie. They are the gold standard to the point where I can't really think who would be in second place. Maybe Garmin with the Descent at the moment. I see that's rising in popularity only because it's got the smartwatch integration over the Terric, which does not. And some light sort of GPS functionality. But to me, you know, there's never been a better computer made than the Shearwater Perdix, the Shearwater Petro, and the Shearwater Terric. So they're my go-tos. I'm only wearing this right now as a watch because my regular watch, which is a Citizen dive watch, is away for service. It's in California right now, and that service has been put on hold because of everything that's going on. So I'm looking forward to getting that watch back. But yeah, Shearwater, Shearwater, and Shearwater are the 3 best computers in the world, in my opinion, right now, Alan. Hope that answers your question. Mecca asks, what's the most effective way to carry out a weight check? We did make a video on this. It is on the Scuba Diver Magazine YouTube channel, so you can feel free to go and check that out with those guys, Scuba Diver Magazine. But the most effective way to carry out a weight check is to make sure that you've got gas in your BCD before you get in, what you think is the correct amount of weight on you, and get in the water. And then you're going to hold a normal breath. You're going to let the air out of your BCD, and you should float at eye level. And then when you breathe out, you should be able to sink. Now, a few points on that. That's the way everyone gets taught to do it. But there's a few additional things that you need to know. Number 1, descending should be an effort. If you breathe out and you sink like a rock, or you immediately start letting gas out and you sink like a rock, you have too much weight. It should be an effort to get under the water. Okay, you need to compress your wetsuit and you need to be able to fight your way down. I mean, not like a crazy effort. You don't want to be underweighted. That's not a thing either. A lot of mistakes that people do is they breathe out and they feel themselves sinking, and instantly you start kicking to hold yourself on the surface because that's what your brain is telling you to do. Even though you've got your reg in and you're breathing and everything's fine, there's that kind of kicking thing there. So make sure that you either cross your ankles or just that you're not kicking when you do the weight check. And then as you let that breath out, you should sink and start to go under. If either you sink too quickly or you let that breath out and now you've got no air in your lungs and no air in your BCD and you still haven't got under, in which case you don't have enough weight. Or if you let that breath out and you sink like a rock, or you start sinking before you let that breath out, then you have too much weight. So that is the correct way to do a weight check. Also, additional tip for you, do a weight check at the end of your dive when the tank is the lightest. So get down to just above your reserve, 600 psi, 50, 60 bar of gas. Come up and do a safety stop and see if you can hold that position neutrally buoyant. If you can't, when your wetsuit is the most expanded, you're at the shallowest part of the dive, if you can't hold that position, then you probably don't have enough weight, and you'll need to add a touch more. Also, when you're adjusting your weight, small increments. You know, half a kilo, 1 pound, 2 pounds at a time, plus or minus. All right, don't dump tons of weight or add tons of weight. Small increments and really get it down to refining it. Omar Naub says, how do you feel about kayak diving? I feel like it's a hell of a lot of work, mate. I have done it, and I feel like it's a lot of work. I like kayaking and I like diving. I like beer and I like eggs, but I wouldn't want to mix the two. I'd rather dive from a boat. It's more easy, more convenient, but I do get the wilderness aspect of just being on your own time, kayaking out to a site, going for a dive, and taking it from there. So appreciate your question, Omar. Thanks for being here. If you're a kayak diver, you should check out my friend Justin Lamar's channel, DIY Kayak. He has a fantastic channel, and he does a lot of kayak diving. So there you go. B. St. John says, all you see up here is shearwater. B. St. John, where is all up here? Where is up here? Where are you? Brian Kimmel asks, have you dived the arch at Dahab? Comments, pointers. I have not dived the arch at Dahab, so I have no comments or pointers, I'm afraid, but thanks for the question. Diabolic Bills asks, any advice for making twin set valve drill smooth and easy apart from just practice? Yes, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's what I tell all my students. It is better to do a valve drill incredibly slowly and not turn a valve the wrong way. So if you're trying to open it, not turning it to the right, turning it the right way. So do it nice and slow and nice and deliberate and get your hands in the right positions and make each valve turn correct. And then build speed into it later. So you go slow, go smooth, make sure you turn all the valves the correct direction before you try and do it in a given amount of time or as fast as you can, etc., etc. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast when it comes to valve drills. Hope that answers your question there, Diabolic Bills. If anyone can help me with the pronunciation of that guy's name, I'd be greatly appreciated. Ivan, I'm guessing you're calling, what is that? Is that a Croatian flag? Maybe? Ivan Skritic, welcome to the chat. Can you recommend a decent regulator for a beginner, please? Depends how much you want to spend and what kind of diving you want to do. I felt like that was asked and answered earlier. I will tell you that my recreational regulator of choice is the SCUBA Pro Mark 17 G260, not sponsored. That just happens to be what I have. So hope that helps for you. Stephen, another question from Stephen. Suggestions how to find a like-minded group of tech divers to continue to practice and grow. Honestly, the best tool we've got for that these days is Facebook. Love it or hate it. It is the best way to find people who have common interests with you, that you want to share common experiences with. We in South Florida, we have a group called South Florida Tech Divers, and I can always find a buddy in there that has the same philosophical approach to me. I've made friends through that group, and yeah, I'm never short of a buddy there. So just check the area wherever you are, Stephen, and hopefully there's a similar kind of thing. Other than that, just going up to people on dive boats and pestering them and being like, "Hey, can I be your buddy?" Yeah, I got a question about that as well, just in general for tech or recreational. How do you find dive buddies? And my answer is pretty much always the same for that. So, okay, Graham Fraser says he's enjoying the live show, James, but got to leave you in 20 minutes as the Queen is on at 8 p.m. Yes, I heard about that. She's doing a live announcement as well, or live broadcast to aid the pulse of the nation. So enjoy that, Graham. Thanks for being here, mate. Eric E asks, any opinion on the SCUBA Pro heads-up display computer? I haven't had the chance to get my hands on one, but I really want to try it. Okay. Here's my issue with the SCUBA Pro heads-up display computer. SCUBA Pro are going in some very wacky directions when it comes to their computers and so on. They've got the heart rate monitor thing now, and then they've got the heads-up display computer. At recreational level, you do not need a heads-up display computer. You don't. I'm sorry, you don't. All right? Wrist-mounted, console-mounted, whatever your preference is there. I like a wrist-mounted computer. That is plenty fine. At recreational level, to have something here constantly flashing your eyes is actually more of a distraction than it is a value, in my opinion. What they're trying to do is take, like the Shearwater Nerd that Rebreather divers use, that they do need a constant supply of information, and apply it or try and make it cool for recreational divers, but I really don't see the need for it. I think it's more gimmicky than it is value. Just buy a quality wrist-mounted computer and a bit like that. Same thing with the SCUBA Pro heart rate monitor. I mean, you don't need to. Why do you need to know your heart rate when you're scuba diving? It's not a cardio sport. It's not an aerobic sport. At least it shouldn't be if you're doing it well. And if something goes wrong and you panic and your heart rate spikes and then you start to get a heart rate that's just going to add and compound to your issues. So for me, that whole heart rate monitor thing, no, just no. Heads up display from Scuba Pro, no. Yeah, I feel it's very, very gimmicky. That's all I can say. Bunch of people asking about rebreathers, closed circuit rebreathers, including Jacob Kraus that just says rebreathers? Question mark. Yes, I am certified on a rebreather. I do not currently own a rebreather. I am looking to get back into rebreathers. They are the way forward, and I need to catch up. That's one of the things that I've been studying recently. More news on that to come on this channel, but I don't have anything to share with you at this time. But yeah, I'm a big fan of them. I am certified on one particular rebreather that I don't want to buy, and I'm looking to get retrained on another rebreather. So hope that works for you. Beeson John says beer and eggs are good. Beeson John's up in Ohio. Thanks for being here, man. Tian James, what do you think of air integrated dive computer to replace SPG? Great question, Tian. I don't replace my SPG with a transmitter, I must say. I like transmitters for what they are for recreational diving, and to have all your information on one place on your computer here, I think is fantastic. But I would never fully replace the SPG. So a couple of solutions there. You can either just put a very simple SPG on a hose and clip it off and have that as a redundancy. So if your transmitter battery fails or if it floods, you've got all your information right there, and you can check your gauge. So that's one solution for that. The other option is you can get one of those little button high pressure ports and screw it into your first stage, and then if you ever had your transmitter fail, you can at least sling your BCD, again in a recreational setup, off one shoulder and check your gauge. Obviously, if your transmitter fails, that's dive over and we're going up anyway. So hope that makes sense to you. Guys, if you're just joining this chat, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure. It's about 2:47 now, so I think I'm going to go for another 13 minutes. So if you've been holding back on a question that you'd like me to answer, now or never, and we'll start to wrap this up. But yeah, that's my opinion on that. Thank you so much for your question. Appreciate it. Eric Guntol, you must be new to this channel, mate. What do you think about the new scuba helmet that lets you breathe underwater without a tank? They show at DEMA. Go back and check. We already talked about that rebreather helmet. It's right there. You must be, if you haven't seen that video already, you can go back and have a look at it. My thoughts on it are that it's a prototype. Everyone was getting all up on their case and all this kind of stuff. It's just a prototype. If it works, it'll be amazing. If it doesn't work, it's going to disappear and go away and no one's going to remember it. So that's my thoughts right now. I'm gunning for them. I'm always about innovation. So if it works, fantastic. If it's safe, that's the only thing that really matters. But I hope that answers your question there. Adam B. Monty asks, whilst kayak diving, can you bring extra O2 and all the other security material? Well, you should, yeah, absolutely. Definitely some kind of personal location beacon or a EPIRB, absolutely. O2, yes, but if you're on your own kayak diving, who's going to administer the O2 to you? Or are you going to have your buddy do it, and are they competent in doing it? So, I mean, you're up in the risk there if you're diving either on your own or with a buddy just from a kayak. And then also, where do you store all that kit, and how do you access it if and when you needed it? So it's a very challenging thing. Is it easier just to put it all on the shore and have it somewhere that's accessible, and that if something goes wrong, you just power in as fast as you can, or your buddy can if they're towing you, and take care of the problem on dry land? Great question. Not really sure what the correct answer to that is. What else do we have here? Let's see. Adam once he says, God save the Queen. Eric E, awesome, thanks. Alan Jarvis, do you engage with a computer in case of computer failures? Asked and answered there, Alan, but yes, absolutely. If I'm diving with a transmitter, then I absolutely have an analog gauge as a backup all the time for any dive, recreational or tech. Don't really tend to use transmitters so much for tech. just tend to rely on the good old-fashioned analog gauge. Hope that helps. Jamie Brooks, welcome to the chat. Thanks so much for your comment. Up there in North Carolina, close to Lake Hickory, and our friends up there, fantastic. Mecca's got another great question here. Let me see. As a recently certified diver, 5 dives, congratulations on getting certified, who is trying to become a great diver, what should my mentality be in regards to preparation for dives and during the dives? After 5 dives, and immediately now where you're going out there and getting your first set of experiences, your focus should be on the basics. We talk about that a lot on this channel. 5 fundamentals: buoyancy, breathing, trim, propulsion, and then the 5th one, which I add in, is organization. All of those skills are interrelated. If one of them is off, all the other 4 will go, into the dumpster. But your focus should be on those 5 fundamentals. So organization starts before you even leave your house, making sure you've got everything, make sure you don't forget anything, making sure that you arrive on time to the dive site. All those things come under organization, and that's a massive stress reduction for you. And then in the water, the four core skills of scuba diving: buoyancy, breathing, trim, and propulsion. Just refining and refining and refining each of those skills. And as I said earlier in this chat, have someone take some video of you so that you can review it and see what you got to work on. Measure your sac rate. Make sure that you get your breathing down as low as possible. All of those things will help you go from being competent to good to great, just as you get better with more experience. But fantastic question. Thank you ever so much. Mecca, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. That's not coronavirus, just talking. Maybe it is, who knows. Adam again, Poseidon, question mark. No, I'm not Poseidon, he's got a beard. What's your take on dry runs to improve some skills while not being underwater, says Frederick. And he sends good vibes, and I appreciate that. Frederick Bring, what a great name. Hey Frederick, thanks for being here. I don't know about dry runs, mate. To be honest, I don't really feel that they have a lot of value because they're very unrealistic. The best training is to go diving, and we can't go diving at the moment, so all training is halted, I'm afraid. But definitely, like when you get in the water, repetition of skills is the key thing. To the point of it being boredom, but to the point where you have muscle memory down for whatever it is you want to work on. So, if you're shooting a DSMB, you shoot one bag, okay, great, you did it once. Take a box of DSMBs down with you, borrow some from your friends, borrow some from a local dive shop, and just go down to the bottom and just shoot 10 DSMBs in a row. Let the captain know that you're going to do it first so they don't freak out. But, just get used to the skill practice, whatever it is that you want to work on, repetition. But in terms of dry runs, I don't see a great amount of value in that. Say I true, I asked a question an hour ago and still no answer. I'm sorry, mate, what was the question? I must have missed it. Let me... Say I true, I want to answer your question because you were one of our very earliest subscribers. So please post the question again and I will promise you I will get to it. Paul D's here, awesome job. Hope to see more of these Q&As. Appreciate that, Paul. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. John Rand, how much redundancy is appropriate for recreational diving? Anything that your buddy can't supply for you, you should probably have redundancy thereof. Is the honest answer there. You don't need crazy redundancy because you got to think about how much do you add where it's actually adding failure points rather than giving a positive effect of having redundancy. So in terms of recreational diving, I just dive with one standard set of accessories, a primary and a secondary regulator, and that's pretty much widely industry accepted. Steady on, James, you got some of that in your mouth. That side mount guy asks, do you own your own compressor and what are your thoughts on home compressors? No, I don't own my own compressors. Compressors are incredibly expensive and, more to the point, very noisy. And for the sakes of my own sanity and those of my neighbours, I decide not to run a compressor here in my house. So I go to a dive center and I fill my tanks like a normal person. If you have the space and the ability to isolate from the sound and the money to invest, then by all means, I mean, a home compressor setup would be phenomenal. Um, Jimmy Kabish says he loves the content and thanks a million for everything. You're very welcome. Thank you very much for being in the community. I wouldn't be able to make these videos without all you guys, so thank you ever so much. John Vegetto says he's been watching the channel for some time. Keep up the great work. Thank you ever so much. Stuart H asks, why did you end up in Miami? Was there a gap in the market? No, there wasn't a gap in the market. I forced my way in. There's tons of dive instructors in Miami. You throw a rock into any waterfront bar, you're going to hit 3 dive instructors. But I came to Miami because well, my wife is American and we moved here together, and we wanted somewhere where we could set up a diving business because that is what I do and that's how we met. And we chose Miami for having access to a large airport because my wife travels all the time for her business, but at the same time being close to really, really great diving. So it was kind of a combination of those two. Not such a gap in the market, but what I do is pretty niche in terms of I don't do big group classes. I don't teach open water to 8 students at a time. I don't have a set schedule for students. I teach one-to-one. So I charge a premium. I charge you know, for more of a private or personalized service, and I take one client at a time. Whether you're doing your open water course or your advanced Trimix course, it's just you and me, and I'm on your schedule, and that's kind of the niche that I fill in the Miami market. But there are tons of dive instructors in Miami, good, bad, ugly, everything in between. So I wouldn't say that there was a gap in the market, but just that I sort of try and do my thing over here and let the others compete for the group classes and all that kind of stuff. Hope that helps. Frederick just asked, have you tried diving a search kite, underwater pilot? I don't even know what that is. I honestly don't know what a search kite is. Have ever tried diving search kite? Nope, no idea. Tell me more. Let me know. Send me a link in the chat or something like that. Do I use dive scooters? What models do you recommend, or do you want to try? I'm dying to get my hands on the black tip because the price point on that is really attractive, and also the SCUBA Jet are 2 of my favorite brands for dive scooters. The SCUBA Jet are doing something really interesting with jet propulsion as opposed to propeller, and I'm very interested to see how their product works out. They're a company out of Austria, and I'm keeping a close eye on them because I think that could be the way forward. All right, guys, we're at 2:58. A couple of last-minute questions. Say I true if you still with me, mate. I need to get your question in. Andy Farry asks, am I an instructor trainer? No, I'm not. No, I don't teach instructors. There's, you've got to be really set up for that. You've got to be at a dive center. You've got to have a compressor. You've got to, be able to have command over the boats and the timetable and the scheduling. It's really, really hard to do. What else do we have here? I think I skipped over a few questions. Sorry, I'm scrolling through all the chats here. Sean Tao asks, why the hate with steel doubles on wetsuits? I don't know, actually. I don't hate it. I don't have a problem with steel tanks on wetsuits. People used to do that for years before aluminium tanks were a thing. So I don't have a problem with it myself personally. You just need to make sure that you have a buoyancy compensating system that is sufficient for the amount of weight you get in the water with. Hope that helps. Stephen Rogers says, love listening to answer questions. Do it again. If you have any corona, come see me. We will give you great care. Thank you very much, Steve. I presume you're a medical professional. Maybe you're a vet. I don't know. A veterinarian. Who knows? Either way, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Sylvester asks, do you have any hints for how to deal with a panicked diver? Yes. Number one hint is do not allow the panicked diver to panic you. Distance yourself. Make sure they don't get up on your business. Keep them at arm's length if you need to calm them down. And then, once you've got control of them, help them take control of themselves. Eye contact is great, demonstrating calm breathing to slow them down, all that kind of thing. I presume you're talking about underwater. On the surface, it's a lot easier to deal with because you can physically talk to them, obviously. But yeah, they're my main tips. Don't become a victim of a panic diver, because that is a very sort of serious situation when that occurs. Rich Law asks, is the OTS garden good to wear to the grocery store? Funny you should ask that, Rich. Renovating the house the other day, I did consider putting mine on to knock some of this nasty insulation stuff out of the ceiling. I was like, I could just put my Guardian right now and breathe from a tank and get all this stuff out of the ceiling. And then I remembered, no, because it will just fog up on land. So yeah, no, I didn't do that. But there we go. Somebody else wore their ocean reef to the store. Good for you guys. That's so funny. Let me see what other questions we got before we end this. Oh, it's 3:01 already, guys. What the hell? Paul D asks, what's your take on solo diving? We made a video on that one. Solo diving versus the InstaBuddy. I'm not a big fan of teaching the solo diving course. If you can find an instructor to teach it, I'd have a problem with people going solo diving. But from a liability point of view, from an instructor's point of view, I choose not to teach solo diving, even though I'm qualified to do so. It's not a course that I offer or recommend. But I don't judge people harshly if that's something they want, because, as I explained in that video, it's kind of a coin toss for, you know, being self-reliant and just responsible for yourself, or rolling the dice with somebody who you've just met on a dive boat as an InstaBuddy. I mean, put in that situation where it's A or B, the solo diving certification starts to look a lot more attractive, but it's not something from a liability point of view that I enjoy teaching, and so generally don't. Mecca asks another quick question. Should I be starting off with a jacket style BCD or a backplate and wing style BCD as a new diver? We made a video on that as well. Feel free to go and check that out on the channel. We made a video exactly called that, jacket style versus BCD, and we cover the points for a new diver in that video. But it really doesn't matter. It depends what kind of diving you want to do, rather than how new you are to the sport, in summary. A lot of people asking about the force fins. I haven't had a chance to try them out myself. There's Andre's asking about the force fins. I haven't tried them out myself either. We shall see. We shall absolutely see if they're just a fad or if they're a serious piece of kit. I'd love to give them a go myself. Where else are we? Any recommendations in St. Augustine? I do not know anybody up there, I'm afraid. My wife and I are dying to go to St. Augustine ourselves for a weekend getaway, because we've heard it's absolutely beautiful. Maybe I'll get to dive up there, and then maybe eventually I'll have a recommendation for you. But as of this time, I haven't had the opportunity, I'm afraid. So, guys, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. I really do appreciate it. So many questions. This has been really fantastic. Like, you know, I'll do it again. Let's set it up again. I've got a lot of great content coming up in the coming weeks, so please do feel free to stay in touch with the video. I'm guessing everybody that's on this chat is already subscribed to our channel, but let me just say once again, thank you very much for supporting this channel, because I can't make videos without you guys. You know, it's very much a two-way street. So I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. It's been a really weird journey. We're almost at our 1-year anniversary, actually. The 14th of April, I posted my first video last year, and this channel has just taken off in a way that I did not anticipate at all. I said, oh, you know, we'll give it 100 videos and 1,000 subscribers. If I haven't done that in 1 year, we'll give it up. And we're, you know, over 14,000 subscribers later and 50 videos or something like that. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And, you know, I can't share my appreciation with you guys enough. I wish I could buy you all beers and take you all diving. But yeah, that's about it. So we'll end the broadcast there. I want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Obviously, this video will be posted to the channel as well. So if you want to go back and double check any of my answers, you are very welcome to do so. And we'll set this up and do it again. It's been a blast. Stay safe, social distance, stay home, and you know, yeah, see that like count going up. Appreciate it. All right. Until next time, you know what I'm going to end with. Dive safe, dive often, guys. As soon as you can. Cheers now. Boom.